Hi, I'm Leslie. Today, I'd like to talk about tone production. Of course, many factors come into play. The left hand, how we are with our body, the instrument. But primarily, let's focus on the right hand and the right arm, because this is our voice, the right arm and the right hand. So let's begin with the bow rest. Very often we talk about holding on to the bow, or we talk about gripping onto the bow. I think that's maybe a wrong concept. If we think of holding onto something, when you hold onto something, you tend to want to grab it with your hands. I think the idea is maybe to think of resting your arm, the entire arm, onto the stick. And if you feel the weight of the arm dropping onto the stick, and then putting your fingers in place, it's just a rest. Think of yourself as clinging on to a bar or tree branch. If you cling onto a tree and hang onto the tree branch and let your weight just hold you down. It's almost like finding a nice pair of shoes that will fit you perfectly, and a pair of shoes that will, if the fit is good, you do not require any shoelaces. And your fingers are like the laces, and the tighter you tie them, the more uncomfortable your feet will be. So it's the same thing. You rest your hands, your arm, on the stick. Alright? So if you think of this, I hold my bow with this. We can do this at home by ourselves and just drop. You see? And then I bring it down and I just put my thumb behind. I think it's very crucial to remember that however we want to place our thumb, it really doesn't matter. What we want to do is to keep it relaxed all the time. This is bad, but this is equally bad, I think. Alright? So you see, I keep my thumb fairly sort of straight, and it needs to be relaxed. The thumb should just fall very comfortably, right? Very comfortably. There. Nothing fancy. I think to keep it here, it's a convenient place that tells students to put your thumb, but you eventually end up with this little hole in your thumb. This, you see, when your hand falls just like that, it just slips into a perfect glove like that. Now you want to think of the strings as a superhighway, and your bow as a vehicle. It's a ship or a plane or maybe a ship, yeah? And you have 4 lanes. Let's divide this into 4 lanes. You have lane 1, lane 2, lane 3, and lane 4. Alright? At any given contact point, this is a contact point, right? There should be a right amount, a balance of weight of the arm and speed of the bow. So there is really a mathematical formula. It's the distance from the bridge or from the fingerboard, right? The distance times the weight of the arm, how light you want, how heavy you want, and the speed of the bow, the stroke. Or is it a slow bow stroke? So there is that formula. So let me show it to you again from a distance, yeah? If I'm playing on the fingerboard, this would be my bow speed. If I'm playing right at the bridge, this is my bow speed. So anywhere in between, you have to find that balance. And of course, where you play depends on the type of sound that the piece requires. You obviously don't want something really hard and heavy when you're playing this. It's way too tense and way too deep, yeah? Think of... But you don't want this either. This is just too wispy and too transparent. Now bear in mind, when you're playing near the bridge, you will hear from this distance a certain harshness, a brightness to that sound. But that brightness is only because you have a lot of harmonics appearing in the sound. And at a distance, people will be able to hear you because those harmonics help with your tone projection. Now, if you just play here on the fingerboard, sul tasto, you get very little of those harmonics and it doesn't really quite project. So again, choose very carefully where you want to play. It depends on the emotion of the piece. Another way to look at it is to think of your strings as the sea and this as a ship. A cruise liner goes under the water as much as 30 feet, 9-10 meters, right? The bottom of the ship goes into the water by about 9 meters, 30 feet. Now a speedboat on the other hand, or a small fishing vessel, for your own personal leisure, you go fishing, your boat hardly sinks below the water surface. So it's the same thing. See, for a very, very huge cruise ship, heavy, it's fat, it's big and cumbersome. You travel slow. You cannot travel on lane 1 with that sort of weight. You have to go. So in shallow water, you cannot have a heavy ship. And likewise, you don't want a small fishing boat to be in the Atlantic Ocean. And when you do draw a bow, all the action should start from the elbow, from the upper arm. With the up bow, I push from my elbow. To think of, again, the bow as a vehicle, and this is your engine. Your fingers are like the crew members of a plane. They pilot the plane, or the drivers of a car. They just drive the car. They steer it in a certain direction, but this is your engine. Again, always initiating from here, pushing out, and pushing in. How we place our bow is very important as well. And I've seen students do this. You see? You don't want your bow to be skidding along this highway. Hear the difference?